All right, let's talk about conflict. Yes, that lovely, irritating, constant little guest that's been following you around since you were a toddler, demanding extra dessert. It's everywhere, between family members, friends, colleagues, even total strangers in traffic. You'd think with how often it pops up in life, we'd have learned to deal with it properly. But nope, most people dodge conflict like it's the plague, never realizing that avoiding conflict can be more dangerous than facing it. But here's the kicker. Conflict isn't just a nuisance. It's actually a crucial part of life. Like it or not, it's the engine that drives change, growth, and, if we're up for it, a shot at becoming better humans. Conflict, the unwanted house guest that actually pays rent. Imagine life without conflict. Sounds nice at first, right? No arguments, no frustration, just one smooth ride from birth to death. But here's the thing. In that peaceful, conflict-free fantasy, we're all essentially stagnant puddles. No grit, no resilience, no growth. It turns out conflict's got a job to do. Like a personal trainer for your mind and relationships, conflict forces you to examine what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're going to fix it when things go wrong. Without conflict, there's no push for change. Just endless, blissful, boring sameness. See, conflict is all about rubbing up against resistance. You don't hit the gym to lift feathers, do you? The resistance is what forces growth, and the same goes for conflict. You've got to face it to break through. But here's where most of us trip up. We'd rather avoid conflict than learn how to navigate it. People dodge, deflect, distract, anything but engage. And what's the result? Problems just sit there, growing into monstrous issues until we finally have to deal with them. Avoiding conflict, how to make small problems bigger. Now I get it. Avoiding conflict seems easier. Nobody likes feeling uncomfortable or having tough conversations. But here's the ugly truth. If you don't confront conflict head on, it doesn't go away. Instead, it festers. The issue you avoided because you didn't want drama or didn't want to ruin the mood now has 6 heads, 3 legs, and is about to ruin your whole week. People avoid conflict for all sorts of reasons. Some don't know how to handle it. Others have been raised to keep the peace at all costs. But whatever the excuse, the outcome is the same. Conflict left to rot becomes a breeding ground for resentment, frustration, and let's be real, probably even more conflict. By refusing to face it, you're only turning a manageable problem into a nightmare waiting to happen. And let's not even get started on internal conflict, those little wars waging inside your own head, the "I should do this, but I really want to do that" routine. You think you're the only one who has this problem? Please, every human alive is in some level of conflict with themselves. Maybe it's a job you hate but need, a relationship you should end but can't, or a personal goal you keep abandoning. These unresolved internal conflicts are like termites eating away at your mental foundation, yet most people either ignore them or distract themselves instead of doing the hard work to face and resolve them. So, what's the solution? Well, you could start by realizing that conflict isn't the enemy. It's not something to sweep under the rug or pretend isn't there. Conflict, when handled right, is just communication that's a bit more passionate. You've got to confront it with respect, honesty, and maybe a little humility, even if you're the type who hates backing down. Here's the trick. Aim to understand the source of the conflict. Most conflicts aren't even about what's on the surface. They're about unmet needs, buried emotions, or values clashing. Once you figure out what's actually fueling the fire, you can work to address it rather than escalating it. It's not easy, but it's effective. And when you get it right, you'll find the conflict actually strengthens the relationship rather than tearing it down. The real battle, dealing with internal conflict. Now, if external conflict is tough, internal conflict is the real beast. It's easy to ignore the screaming match happening in your own head, at least for a while. You bury the doubts, silence the criticisms, ignore the red flags. But this is where avoiding conflict does the most damage. You can't go through life at odds with yourself and expect things to go well. Internal conflict affects every choice you make, from how you spend your time to how you treat others. You can't escape it. You can only deal with it. So how do you tackle internal conflict? Start by acknowledging it. Recognize that you're conflicted and try to understand why. What's the real issue? Is it fear, self-doubt, guilt? Once you get to the root, you can start working through it. This doesn't mean it'll be easy, but hey, progress isn't supposed to be comfortable. Work with it, not against it. Confront what's inside you, learn to understand it, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself moving forward rather than spiraling in circles. The Chinese medicine perspective, your liver and your conflict. Now let's take a detour into Chinese medicine, because in the world of traditional medicine, conflict doesn't just mess with your head, it messes with your liver too. That's right, the liver isn't just for processing your bad life choices in the form of questionable takeout and one too many margaritas. In Chinese medicine, the liver is the organ tied to emotions like frustration and anger, feelings often linked to conflict. In this framework, when you're constantly in conflict, internal or external, it's like you're pouring poison into your liver. You might notice signs like mood swings, tension headaches, even digestive issues. Emotionally, you'll find yourself irritable and on edge, ready to snap at the nearest unfortunate soul. Unresolved anger and suppressed emotions tend to get stuck in the liver, leading to everything from anxiety to that perpetual feeling of being blocked in life. But here's the kicker. When you start dealing with your conflicts, you're not only clearing out your mind, you're actually giving your liver a break too. Learning to address and navigate conflict helps release these pent-up emotions, easing the strain on both your mind and your body. In this sense, confronting conflict isn't just psychological self-care, it's physiological as well. Conflict is inevitable, so get good at it. Look, life is full of conflict. You're never going to avoid it completely, so stop acting like it's a choice. It's part of the human experience, baked right into the package. Whether it's a squabble over the last slice of pizza or a deep internal struggle over the direction of your life, conflict is there to make you confront the stuff you'd rather ignore. But here's the silver lining. Conflict can be constructive if you let it. Instead of avoiding it, start seeing it as an opportunity to grow, to understand yourself and others better. It's uncomfortable, sure, but growth is never comfortable. So next time you're facing conflict, internal or external, give it a shot, lean into it, listen to it, and try to navigate it with some humility and honesty. Who knows, you might just come out the other side stronger and more self-assured, and hey, your liver will thank you.